won't answer the same question. According to U.S. Census data, the population of Williamsburg is split roughly between students of the college and non-students. As in any college town, relations between these two parties can often become tense. Few town and gowns in America, however, can boast that they have weathered 3 centuries of coexistence. How would you characterize the current state of town-gown relations? As a member of City Council, the body elected by both members of town and gown, and what specific initiatives would you implement to strengthen the bridges between these two different groups?
Well, I think that the relationships seemingly have been strained recently. I think mostly it has to do with policy, questions of the 3-person rule, rental issues. So there has been a little bit of friction. I'm sure that these things will be worked out. That's why council it has the job that it does. I would recommend that council we set up the process so it's more easy to approach council and early in process and have more public input to council. I think students are a very special part of the community. I know everyone here enjoys the students. There's no question at all there. And I know the students love Williamsburg, as we all did when we came to William and Mary. So I think these are just policy differences, and we'll have no problem working them out and coming to a conclusion that will satisfy everyone.
Thank you. Could you just quickly elaborate on some specific policy changes or something that you would implement to bridge those the gaps?
Well, I don't have anything specific to implement. I can say that I'm open to the 3-person rule, and I'm sure that will be a follow-up question, so I don't know if I should get into that too deeply.
We'll touch upon that.
And rentals are a question that I have opinions on, and I think that's a sore point, so I'm sure the follow-up questions will be there.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Hammond?
Thank you. I've been in Williamsburg since 1969, and relations between students and the community, between the college and the community, ebb and flow. And since I've been on council, we've tried to take some initiatives to open dialogues and create mechanisms so that those dialogues can take place. We've started having opening year receptions with student leaders. We have regular meetings each semester with student leaders. We initiated block parties on both Richmond Road and Jamestown Road so that neighbors can get to know neighbors. We've encouraged the neighborhood council to make the students' body, the student assembly, a member of that organization. So in essence, what we've tried to do is create mechanisms where interchange can take place. I think that as we move into the future, we have to strengthen those, and we have to look for new ways that communication can take place. It seems to me that the kind of thing we're doing here tonight is an ideal opportunity for that. You're using an on-campus site, you're using the technology that students know and use all the time, and it seems to me that if city leaders and student leaders could have this type of meeting and this type of discussion that would be open through Facebook and other things, that we have a way for that dialogue that's been started already to continue into the future. And I think that's a really important opportunity, and we need to grasp it and go with it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Ms. Knudsen?
I find this very interesting because I had lots of relationships with students when I was at Old Town Medical Center. We had lots of students coming out, working, and then I would come home and I would hear the whole other side. It was like it was 2 different universes. There was the universe of the kids who came to Old Town, and then there was the universe of somehow people being very unhappy and feeling not welcome in town. And in some ways, I feel the controversy over the housing has been blown out of control by a very small group. And I would support, in fact, the neighborhood council's approach to trying to solve these problems. I think the neighborhood council tried very hard to set up some committees, and I think it was on its way to working, and I would like to see that work better. And I think city council ought to be more involved with neighborhood council in doing that.
Sure. First of all, I think relations between the city and the college are actually pretty good. I think there are a few vocal people on both sides of the aisle who tend to sometimes blow things out of proportion, and I think that's unfortunate. At the same time, relations could absolutely be better. There's little to no question about that. And I believe that my presence on city council can only make them better. And let me give you a couple examples. You mentioned relations between the college and the students, between the college community and the wider Williamsburg community. Things that I'm able to do that I don't think other candidates necessarily can do is go to SEEK meetings, things like that, and talk about environmental issues because I'm already on campus. I already live with all of you. I can go and talk with student leaders, which I have a unique capability to do. At the same time, I believe I have a unique capability to talk to residents about problems they may have with the college. Mr. Ron Steffi's here. He wrote an article about some problems that he had with the College of William & Mary and students and in the Virginia Gazette. And the first thing I did the next day was I went over to his house, I knocked on his door, and I started talking to him about these issues, about ways that we can resolve them. There was an item in the last word of the Virginia Gazette talking about problems that people had with the Ying Yang Twins concert, anticipated problems with that. And the first thing I did was I called Mark Constantine, who's the director of student activities, and I talked to him about what kind of noise impact this might have on the surrounding community. And he assured me that there would be no problems, and I hopefully I'll hold him to that. As to other concrete steps that I would take, I think one problem that I've seen, and this is not a fault of any leader in the student assembly, this is the mere fact that when someone becomes a student leader on campus, they tend to graduate because they've risen up to become a senior. I look forward to being here for 4 years and to setting up a lot of these committees and devoting a ridiculous amount of time to making sure that they all work. Things like committees to talk about the three-person house rule, essentially making it an almost full-time job of mine. Talking about things like neighborhood guides, which the essay did not touch on this year, and they should have. And for individualized neighborhoods, talking to people about what the year-long residents of that community want. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Mr. Beato. Mr. Freiling.
Thank you. When I was first running for council about 4 years ago, I think that there was a little more tension probably among the neighbors and the college, and I think that has improved significantly. I think a lot of that is due, its credit is due to the college administration for steps that they've taken to improve relations with the surrounding communities through various projects that were proposed that people were concerned about in the neighborhoods. I think the neighborhood council has helped facilitate communication between students and people in the other neighborhoods, and I think that's really what it comes down to is communication. We need more face-to-face contact, and we need to hear directly from each other what our concerns are, and what our fears are, what our hopes are, and what our hesitations are. Because once we have those conversations, once you've met somebody and you've exchanged ideas with them, it's very difficult to go back to whatever place you might go to and all of a sudden feel some anxiety or anger at that person because you've already had a conversation with them. It's much easier to pick up the phone and have that dialogue. Some of the ways I think we could do that are perhaps a more organized approach within the campus, a student organization for students who are living off campus so that they can be organized in a way that facilitates their contact through the neighborhood council and through other aspects of the city to bring those dialogues about. And I can tell you one other thing, when we first ran, I did a little bit of research on community and student relations and looking even in the records of William and Mary. And there's some pretty scary things that happened in this town in the 17th and 18th centuries, and you read about students walking up the Duke of Gloucester with bricks in their hand and pelting people, knocking things through their windows. You hear laments about the poor quality of housing in the neighborhoods and you can't get a decent room. Well, some things don't change, but they do get better. And as Matt said, we can take what we have and we can make it a lot better than it is.
Thank you. Mr. Granger?
I agree with all 5 of my predecessors. They all have some good ideas. Town and gown, they're both our own. We need to have more discourse between the 2 factions. More people need to visit the campus, walk on the campus, more residents, and more students need to get out For instance, when we have the neighborhood party for the Harrison Avenue West Williamsburg group, we have very few of the students show up for that. We have mostly just the residents show up. Now, I'm not sure whether that's because the students didn't and the tenants did not have any desire to show up, or whether